Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome into the show. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and watching the program here today. This is the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr. A lot to talk about on today's show, which is presented by Prize Picks. And we've had some banger videos for a long while here. We're going to continue to churn out fantastic content, so that's why you subscribe. I want to take a look at the top edge rushers and interior offensive linemen available for the Niners to sign an NFL free agency. Outside of safety, I think those are the two biggest positions of need for San Francisco. We're also going to take a look at Niners injury news by the numbers. Once again, before the season even starts, the 49ers, one of the more injured teams in football. People want me to stop talking about this, but they've been top 10 in injury rate 12 out of the last 13 years, and once again, they're very injured. When I have a Niners show every single day, and injuries impact the on-field product, and they impact this team, we're going to talk about that here on the show. And then Niners owner Jed York, not seen at the NFL owners meetings today. Who was there to represent the Niners? And is this a new era underway for San Francisco? A lot of thoughts on that as well. As far as the best edge rushers remaining, there's a decent list of players who San Francisco could potentially sign. Context here. The 49ers last year, 32nd among 32 teams in sacks. They had 20 as a team. They had 4 from their defensive tackle group. But I do think this offseason, San Francisco put themselves in a position where they are deeper and better along the interior defensive line. The trade for Osa Odighizuwa is one of the best moves that any team made throughout this entire offseason. I know Alfred Collins has struggled in the preseason, but I'm a believer in the player because of the signs of growth that I saw all throughout last year during his rookie campaign. CJ West has been in the concussion protocol, but he's a solid player. I think Sebastian Valdez can make this team. I liked what I saw from Grayson Halton week 1 of the preseason. He's got some wiggle and twitch at defensive tackle. You have an undrafted free agent and a guy like Bryson Eason, who I think is a pretty solid player. So at defensive tackle, I think San Francisco is in a really good spot. At edge rusher, though, Nick Bosa hasn't practiced for multiple weeks. Michael Williams might start the year on PUP. Outside of that, Romello Height hasn't done anything throughout the preseason as far as pass rush production. I know that he's had some illegal hands to the face penalties that haven't been called, but he's 240 pounds and hasn't been able to really display that speed, twitch, and bend coming off the edge. Sam Okuano is another one of the Niners' backup pass rushers. So I think they need to improve their pass rush. There are a few players out there who would be cheap and help San Francisco do that. Kyle Van Noy is one of those players, been a part of some great winning teams. And he said a few weeks ago he'd like to play for the Niners. 2, he's in really good shape. Hassan Reddick in this scheme with Raheem Morris running the defense, I think could be a good fit. He's not far removed from having an excellent 2022 season in which he had 16 sacks with Philadelphia, double-digit sacks with 11 in 2023. He's past his prime for sure. Had a down year with the Jets, down year last year with Tampa Bay. But I think on this defensive line, he could play well. Those are the 2 players that I would like the most for San Francisco. There's also Leonard Floyd, who played for the Niners back during 2024 and for Raheem Morris last year. Raheem Morris kind of likes some of those smaller edge rushers. Reddick, Floyd, they are that. Preston Smith, Brandon Graham, although it's Eagles or bust. Tyquan Lewis, Yetur Gross-Matos, another former Niner, but was always hurt during his couple of years with San Francisco. Danico Autry has had a really good career. Josh Paschal, Dwayne Smoot, Shaq Barrett, Yannick Ngakoue, Jerry Hughes, Casey Toohill, James Smith-Williams. Tyus Bowser was with the Ravens for like 6 or 7 years. Solid player who had some good stretches of production with Baltimore. Khalid Duke, DeMarvin Leal, and Taquan Grant. So those are some of the top pass rushers who are still available. I'd also throw out a name like Josh Sweat as a player who I would love for San Francisco to trade for. He's been unhappy with Arizona, was just activated off a training camp PUP, and he's an excellent player coming off a career year. Along the interior offensive line for the Niners, Kyle Shanahan said yesterday the left guard spot is probably going to be determined soon. Carver Willis, Connor Colby, Robert Jones. If I had my guess right now, unfortunately, it would be Connor Colby, but it's all a bunch of bad options. If I was the Niners, I'd reach out to Mekhi Becton 2 years ago at right guard, kind of revived his career for a season as a failed offensive tackle with the Jets. He's one of the best guards in football for that Eagles rushing attack, which led to Saquon Barkley setting the single-season record, regular season playoffs for the most rushing yards in a season. Kevin Zeitler is still out there. Graham Glasgow is out there. Greg Van Roten, Andre James, Liam Eichenberg, James Daniels. Will Hernandez is a player who I think would be a solid signing for the Niners. Aaron Stinney, Shaq Mason, Mark Lewinsky, Cody Whitehair, definitely well past his prime. Nick Harris, Tremaine Antrim, Nate Davis, Nick Gates. Alex Kappa has played some good football during his career. Ben Cleveland, Sadiq Charles, Keon Smith, Cody Ford. How about a name like Laken Tomlinson, who in 2021 was really good for the Niners, has not been good since, but sometimes a player just works out for a specific team. I also think the Niners should call the Philadelphia Eagles about Fred Johnson. Vidarian Lowe might start the year on short-term IR, high ankle sprain. Haven't seen him since practice number 1. Austin Pleasance is also hurt. That means if Trent Williams got hurt, Enrique Cruz, the rookie, who doesn't look to be an NFL offensive tackle, would be protecting Brock Purdy's blind side. Yikes. Fred Johnson is filled in very nicely for Jordan Mailata at left tackle, Lane Johnson at right tackle, so he can play both right tackle and left tackle. He's a very serviceable player. He's extremely affordable, and he's held up well against the likes of some of the top pass rushers. Now, he's not a consistent starter because the game isn't consistent, but he's a way better option than Austin Pleasance. And I'd say he's a better option even than Vidarian Lowe, although Lowe might get the edge. He, too, is a swing tackle. Coming up next here on the show, Niners injury news by the numbers, and Jed York not at the NFL owners' meetings today. I've got some thoughts on that. But first, the 49ers report today is presented by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports picks app in North America. More than 20 million users have signed up and submitted a lineup with billions of dollars paid out in winnings. All of your transactions are safe and secure. So pick more, pick less, pick Prize Picks. This is a $20 lineup to win $120, so a 6x multiplier. Use our code HMA. If you win your first $5 lineup, you get $150 if you win. I know a lot of Niner fans don't like the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, but 21.5 passing touchdowns is the number for the entire season for him. Even in a down year last year, he had 26. 2022, 2023, he was more than 21.5 passing touchdowns. So I think that number is very low. I like the more on that. I talked about this. This number has actually gone up from 2.5 to 3, but Brock Purdy rushing touchdowns, he's one of the most underrated quarterback sneakers in the game. So goal line situations, I think that he can find the end zone. And then he even said it, he wants to use his legs more this year. Creating out of structure is a strength of Purdy's, and he can do that in goal line, red zone situations. So more than the 3 rushing touchdowns. And Bijan Robinson, the Falcons might be one of the worst teams in the NFL, maybe the worst, but they're going to lean on him. They just paid him. So they're going to give him a lot of carries. More than 1,150.5 rushing yards. I love that number as well. So $20 lineup to win $120 right there. Pick more, pick less, pick Prize Picks. Give me a follow on the app at Chase_Senior to see some of my lineups before we talk about them here on the show. All right. Let's talk some Niners injury news. Yesterday on Tuesday, 23 Niners missed practice. And there are people who cover San Francisco who continue to spin this as, this is no big deal because some of these players are going to return next week. 12 out of the last 13 years, the 49ers have been top 10 in injury rate. That directly impacts the on-field product. And once again, we're talking about the same issues. The Niners being hurt, still practicing by the substation. They still have the same athletic training staff. Kyle Shanahan has altered the practice schedule, but they continue to have all these soft tissue injuries. This is not normal. Regardless of whether or not players are going to return next week or not, San Francisco now has 25 players on the training camp injury report. No other team in the NFL, get this, has more than 16. The Niners are the outlier, and they've been the outlier for more than a decade. Nick Bosa has not practiced in nearly 3 weeks. The hope is that he comes back next week, but who knows? Ricky Pearsall, another player who the Niners were counting on here in 2026, is already on season-ending injured reserve. So the 49ers right now, 25 players listed on the training camp injury report. The next closest team, and this is a team that's also been banged up, but it pales in comparison to the Niners, the New Orleans Saints with 16. When is this going to change? I just wish the Niners would practice away from the substation to just see if this is impacting anything. I would love for the Niners to change their athletic training staff to see if that leads to fewer injuries, because this becomes increasingly frustrating year over year. And it's great that the Niners last year still won 12 games in a playoff game. That's great. But the point is, imagine how much better they could be if they were a healthier football unit. All right. Breaking news across the NFL today. Niners owner Jed York moved back to Ohio following his divorce this spring, no longer lives in California. I think that's a little bit odd. Think of some of the best owners across the NFL. Jeffrey Lurie with the Eagles, Robert Kraft with the Patriots, Clark Hunt with the Chiefs, Steve Bisciotti with the Baltimore Ravens. Would those owners ever live so far away, nearly across the country from the teams that they own? I know that the DeBartolo base was based out of Ohio for a lot of Eddie D's tenure, but Jed York has not been around the Niners all summer. He didn't even know that they signed Christian Kirk because he was overseas checking in on his soccer team. And today, Jed York is not at the NFL owners' meetings. Al Guido, the Niners CEO, is the one representing San Francisco. Jed York might be going through a difficult time right now. He was caught soliciting a prostitute at 9:30 in the morning at an Ohio trailer park. Was he sober doing that? Was he under the influence? From a mental health standpoint, he's probably not in a good spot, but he's living in Ohio. The Niners are in the Bay Area. He hasn't been around the team all throughout the summer. Now he's not at the NFL owners' meetings. At some point, you got to own it. You got to come out and make a public statement, and you have to try to get past this, because this is one of the biggest stories in sports. It's one of the more embarrassing stories in NFL history, and you just got to get out in front of it. The statement that the Niners released the other day once the news broke of York's arrest, it's ridiculous. But Jed York has the opportunity to face the noise and address this head on, and he's MIA in Ohio, not at the NFL owners' meetings, and Al Guido is representing San Francisco. Is this the start of the Al Guido-led Niners? What an odd situation. Also, I want to touch on this. The owner of the San Francisco 49ers, one of the most popular brands in sports worldwide, just got busted for soliciting a prostitute in an Ohio trailer park for $140, and he brought an extra $20 for a tip. He got caught in a sting. Regardless of how you spin this is a black eye for the organization. It's a black eye for the NFL. And it's one of the most embarrassing stories and moments in NFL history. And I imagine that Jed York is going to be facing discipline. I know that the word fan is short for fanatic, and it's awesome to see how rabid Niner fans are about their team. This fan base is passionate. It's knowledgeable about the team and the sport of football. Talking about the Niners every single day on this platform has literally changed my professional and personal life. But the delusional portion of this fan base needs to wake up. They need to get a grip. There are fans out there who act like the Niners cannot be criticized, but the team hasn't won a Super Bowl since 1994. And there are a lot of media members who talk about the Niners who are not critical of this team. And if you are critical of a team that hasn't won a Super Bowl since 1994, you're labeled a hater. This week, That's been on full display following the Jed York arrest. The coverage, the memes, the t-shirts that you created, they're deplorable, low class, and unprofessional. Wake up. When you're a public figure and you're the owner of the 49ers and you get busted in a prostitution sting in an Ohio trailer park trying to solicit a prostitute in a rental car for $140 under an alias name, you got to face the noise. You think you're not going to become a meme? You think you're not going to become a t-shirt? You're not going to become a talking point? It's genuinely hilarious. And two things can be true at the same time. It can be very funny, and you can also wish Jed York the best. But what a dumb decision and ridiculous thought process by Jed York to even think about this. Imagine how poorly this could have gone if Jed responded to this ad and it wasn't the authorities and it was somebody else who was trying to harm him. Can you imagine how much bigger of a story this would be? So yeah, when the memes are flying in this social media world and the Niners are on the quest for 6, yet Jed York is on the quest for sex, we're going to make it into a shirt. Some Niner fans have unsubscribed from this show. They're like, I'm done with this classless program. How about you laugh once in a while? How about you have a good time? Not everything is so serious. You're capitalizing on his downfall. Not capitalizing on his downfall. Donald Trump mugshots turned into t-shirts. Tiger Woods mugshots turned into t-shirts. Scotty Scheffler mugshots. Free Scotty turned into t-shirts. Jed York mugshot, we're going to turn it into a t-shirt, and we've sold well over 100 in less than 48 hours. Laugh a little bit. Life doesn't have to be so serious. To the real ones who made it until the end of the video, type real one down below. I appreciate all of you. I'll catch you soon here on the show. Back in the studio tomorrow. Preseason finale against the Raiders. We'll be doing a watch party. Hope to see all of you there. Peace.